All right. Hello. Good morning, everybody. I am Chloe, and this is Rise and Right. Thank you all for joining. I am also awake and also ready to write Rose Lynn. I hope everybody else is doing okay as well. I had a rough night. I have a sick kitty. Um, for those of you who watch regularly, you know that there's always kitties in my room, and there's not right now because one of them is having accidents. I was really worried last night, and I did that thing where I stayed up all night, worried that like I was gonna fall asleep, but I was gonna wake up and my cat was gonna. He's okay. He is going to the vet today. It's just, yeah. It's not like you can go to the vet the moment it happens. I mean, you can go to the emergency vet, but that's really expensive and probably overreacting. I say that because I speak from experience of like rushing the cat to the emergency vet and the emergency vet being like, no, he's fine here. But these are the first cats that have been like my adult responsibility. I always had cats growing up, but of course, if the cat was sick, I'd be like, Mom, the cat's sick, fix it. And Mom would do what Mom does. Well, now I'm Mom. So I was up all night fretting and like not sure what to do. And he does seem to be feeling a little bit better today. So hopefully that's a good sign. He asked me for pets today. He's a fairly vocal cat. And y'all never hear him. He only talks to me, like privately. He's very chatty with me. But yeah, so he didn't meow at all yesterday. And he didn't try to get into my room. It was like he understood that he has no control over himself right now. So he didn't try to get into my room last night. But this morning, he attempted to meow. It was weak. It was sad. But like it was a good step because he hadn't yesterday. So I think he'll be okay. But he's going to the vet. We'll get some blood work and stuff done. Hopefully he'll be okay. We've always had some issues with him. That he does pee where he's not supposed to occasionally. So maybe, like, as much as I don't wish my cat to have like kidney stones or anything, maybe it will turn out that there's always been something low-key wrong with him, and this was just it culminating, and we'll be able to get that fixed. We'll see. I guess male cats are prone to this, so they just need like a little extra love. And I did have a cat growing up who did have an issue with UTIs, so I do know this one pretty well. We did just buy a gigantic bag of food, a monster bag of cat food. That probably won't be any good. Oh, you know what? We got it through Amazon though. I wonder if you can return gigantic bags of cat food to Amazon. I kind of, I kind of feel like an asshole rolling up on the UPS store with this gigantic bag of cat food, but also I feel like the bag was like $25, and like that is a substantial amount of money. If not, we can donate it if we even need to do this. Anyways, so that's where I am. Obviously, I'm a cup of coffee already in. I am working on getting my today's medium story up. This takes longer than it should. I'm already spending 2.5 hours. Courtney, you were with me for most of that last night to write the story, which I keep being told, no, you got to cut it under an hour. And then I probably spend another like half hour on the edit. And now I've just spent another hour between like making the post and proofreading reading the post. So I'm at almost 4 hours on these stupid things. I guess if I ultimately make like $40 off of it, it'll be worth it because I still live in a world where like I accept $10 as minimum wage in my brain. So far I have made 98 cents total, which I'm not expecting any more than that. Like, that's not a complaint. I've got 3 stories up. I know how these things work. I'm like, woo, 98 cents. But I do need to like get this going in a more lucrative fashion, a more efficient fashion. Let's go ahead and do our first sprint. I am going to get coffee number 2. And finish this post during that. And then hopefully I'll get both of those things done. And then I can move on to my big project for the day, which is editing my demon story. Rose just said, I've heard a rumor that Amazon will just refund you without the actual return. I have done that a couple of times, but also like usually the returns that I do, it's a take it to the UPS store to do it. I don't know. I probably, you saying that makes me think. I wonder if the best thing to do would be to go onto their website and ask them, like, hey, I got this gigantic bag of cat food, because they might have to throw it out on a return. I feel like they kind of have to. So I guess I could talk to them and be like, hey, I got this gigantic bag of cat food that I can't use because cat's sick. Can I, like, are you going to throw it out if I refund it, or can I just get a refund and take it to a cat shelter or something? Yeah, we're good Amazon customers. It's not like we do a ton of returns at them. So I feel like they might be a little bit more friendly about that. So yeah, thanks for saying that. I'll get in touch with them after we like deal with the vet and all of that, see where it goes from there. But if we do need to unload a gigantic bag of cat food, that might be a good strategy. Okay, 10 minutes is 10:08, so I'll see you guys at 10:18. Oh, wrong mouse. I don't understand why Medium is low key a train wreck all the time. I don't know if y'all were here when I was talking about this before with Sandy, but the way that the title pages work out, or like the title section of it, the header, so to speak, is you've got like a kicker and then a title and then a subtitle. But in order to make them work, there's like an actual title bar where you put the title in. It's not a bar. It's a block style editor. So, but automatically the first block is the title. So you put the title in the title block. And then you go to the next block and you write out your subtitle, you highlight it, you change it to H2, and it automatically becomes a subtitle. And like it says it on the side of the screen. Your title will be here, it'll say title right here. And then like you just put your text in for the next one. And then once you make it H2, then it'll say subtitle here. And then you go back up to the title and drop it down a line. So there's an extra line up here. Type that stuff in, do H2 again, and then it'll say kicker here. So like real dumb, right? This is a terrible setup for this. And, but okay, it works, except now my fourth time doing this, everything looks completely correct on my screen. And yet, in all of its metadata, the kicker is the title, and the title is the subtitle. And I don't get it. I don't understand why Medium it does things so weird. But that story is now up and ready to go. Also, during that, I had a comment posted in Twitch. And I don't know if it's spam or not, because it's not in English. It's in Spanish. I can't read Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. So I don't even know if I should delete the comment or not, or if it's just some poor soul that missed the fact that this is an English speaking stream. I realized that like at the time I only had the timer on the screen. So I would get it if any of y'all are like, oh, well, how would they possibly know? And here, Shadow. That's it. It does say on my screen that, like, it does say on my stream that this is an English speaking stream. Like, that is just part of what Twitch does. Also, good morning, Shadow, and good morning, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining. We are still at the beginning. This is my 10 a.m. to noon show. So we have, that was just our first sprint, right? Yeah, we're only in one sprint. We're only one sprint in. What was I going to do? I was going to do something while I was here. Oh, I was going to edit stream info while I have this here. It automatically assumes that I am a talk show or podcast on Twitch, and I'm not, and I don't know how to make it stop doing that either, except that everything about Twitch is very confusing, as is Medium. This is my life now, being confused by computer stuff. Are we at time? We are at time, so it is time for the next sprint. We are going to go 20 minutes this time. And I'm actually going to be editing. So yay, I got that extra stuff done. Oh, I do need to like do a post with it. I need to really quickly put up a Facebook post, but that's it. So we're going for 20 minutes. I will see you guys at 44 past. Oh, what that? So you all right? You all right? Okay, that was time. I got a little bit of editing. You know what? I say a little bit of editing. I did finish the scene. It was a short scene. Also, this is my demon romance that I am editing now. This is my second pass on editing. I normally do 2 edits and a proofread. And I did get it under 45. My goal was getting it under 35 last time, and I got it to 47. But I'm now under 45. So, and I'm a little past halfway. Am I like 2/3, 60? Yeah, I'm about 2/3 of the way through. So I don't think I'll get it down to 44, but I feel good about that. Also, some good news, bad news on my end. The cat is screaming at my door to come in, which usually is bad news, but also focus. Also, he it's the one who's sick, and he didn't try to get into my room at all yesterday. So he's got to be feeling better, right? That's what I'm hoping for. We'll still go to the vet. Obviously something was like terribly wrong with him, and I would like to get blood work done. See if he thinks it's worthwhile getting a scan. Like he's feeling better, but he's not well. One of those situations. Like he's definitely still sick, but he's doing better than yesterday, which is a great thing. But yeah, so Elizabeth started making some corrections in an old book and republishing it. Sort of a frustrating process, but working through it. I get it. I'm like, thankfully, because I'm self-published, I can go through and change stuff whenever I want. But also, just like the updating back matter is a pain in the butt. And that's like every single time a new book comes out, right? You got to go through and change your back matter on everything. But also like yes, it is frustrating, especially knowing that like it's something that's already out there, that certainly all of this work is not going to make a bunch of sales for you. It should make some, but it's certainly not like putting out a new book would. But also it's really satisfying knowing that anybody who's looking at your older stuff is going to still have it. You know, I don't want anybody to ever look at my older stuff and be like, oh, yeah, this was back when she sucked. I want it to be good. Also, that thing that I had up on the screen before that was from Twitch, I'm assuming because there were no reactions from it, that nobody here speaks Portuguese. I had said Spanish, and Shadow very kindly took a look at it and basically said, that's not Spanish. And that was when I took a second look at it and realized that my dumbass, it was clearly Portuguese. And I know that probably, you know, a lot of people don't immediately recognize when something is in Portuguese as opposed to Spanish because they are two similar looking languages. But there was that like an aggressive use of H's in it, which is a Portuguese thing. Like when they're conjugating, it's not even conjugating. There's just a lot of H's in it. At the end, I don't know. I do actually know like a trace amount of Portuguese. Usually I'm really good at recognizing the difference between Portuguese and Spanish. And I guess, I guess just because it's early, yet in my brain, I didn't get it. Yes, as Shadow just said, Spanish and Portuguese, very similar. But like he said, oh my God, off and translating, that like, and that's it. So it turned out to be porn, one of those, I don't even know. It was spam. It was porn spam. I don't know. But of course, when you get into stuff like that, everything is euphemism. And already between Spanish and Portuguese, there are so many words that have like similar definitions, but are not the exact same word, that when you try to translate from Spanish to Portuguese, it ends up being a little crazy. The funny thing is that I know all of this because I used to teach cake decorating. And at one point I had a student who was Brazilian, didn't speak English. Her son came with her and translated for her. Her son was sick one day. She literally brought a note from him saying, "Hey, mom's just going to sit in the class and watch you. But don't worry that she's not going to be able to understand what you're saying. It's not your problem." But a couple of the girls in the class were also Hispanic, spoke Spanish, and between them and the Brazilian lady, they were able to like make things work because the languages are so similar. But like obviously there was a lot of like hammering things out, and then it got to the point like everything was good, and then I said that for like their homework they had to make royal icing, which needs lukewarm water, and lukewarm just like caused massive chaos until we finally figured out that like, oh, let's just call it room temperature and ignore all of that. But anyway, so I ended up taking that little snippet and running it through Google Translate. And it was, the funny thing is that it ended up looking very poetic for it being translated from Portuguese to English. I'm sure that in Portuguese it was probably like pretty vile. But because it was translated, it was very much like reading a sex scene in a historical romance novel. Okay. So that mystery solved. It was a delightful little adventure. Yes, it cut into my editing time, but that's okay because I've got a whole bunch of today to edit in, and then I have to deal with cat vet, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and do our next sprint. We're going for 20 again. It is 10:52, so I will see you guys at 11:12. Good luck. Okay, time. Let me know how you did. I finished off editing a chapter and got into a new one. I got really excited because I heard a cat pounding on the door again, and then there was a meow, and it was the other one. I'm like, you bitch. I love you, but like, I don't love you like that right now. I want to hear my chonky boy meowing at my door. But yeah, so I got that. I'm now on chapter 10. I've got probably, I feel like this is going to end up being about 15 chapters. But I have not done all of that yet. I don't know. Chapters are always a funny thing for me. And I'm sure that they are for most people, figuring out where to put chapters, because like I know naturally where they should land, but there's that issue where sometimes a chapter is like 2 pages long because naturally this is just the pacing of the story, and I hate having baby chapters. So also I've realized that the beginning of my story is way too long again, because that very first chapter is like 8 pages, and we're talking about like not paperback pages, but like Microsoft Word, what they consider to be pages. So this is like a 200-page story. So when I say it's 8 pages, it's more like 16, which is just like a porker for a first chapter. But also, like, you shouldn't have a specific length that you aim for with chapters. I don't know. Chapters are weird. They're a weird thing, but they're also a powerful thing. They really do set the pace and the motivation for your readers. You naturally want them to be cliffhangers as much as possible, because that's what gets people to keep reading. It's really funny, the psychology behind it, because people naturally want to end on a chapter, but then as if that chapter, like if they want to stop reading at the end of a chapter, but then if you trick them with a cliffhanger, then they keep reading, but they still have that natural motivation to like finish a chapter before they stop reading. So as long as you keep ending them on cliffhangers, it makes it really hard to put the book down. So if anybody is curious about how, I know that this is something that a lot of people do struggle with. I struggle with it in that sense of I'm OCD, and so I like consistency, but I also know that like that kind of consistency is bad. But if you do struggle with just like trying to figure out where to put your chapters in, that is absolutely like a huge part of the strategy if you want to like do chapters in a smart way, instead of being like, well, each of my chapters is going to be 3,000 words. So like however long this scene is, that's going to be the end of the chapter because I've just hit 3,000 words. That's a terrible strategy. There's a natural rhythm. You don't want it to be, you don't want it to bounce all over the place and have like a 20-page chapter and then a 5-page chapter and then a 30-page chapter and then a 7-page chapter. But those baby chapters, those like 1-page, 2-page ones, when you tend to be in like that, we'll say 15-page range, those are also really powerful for the rhythm of the story, for like a really super impactful scene. If it's just like that single thing has, it's kind of encapsulating that single moment, that single super important moment. A Funky Sai, thank you for joining. I also think that modern day readers do prefer short chapters, especially when you are doing ebooks. Like the short chapters just work better. I know that there's tons of debates out there about the modern reader and like leaving the old conventions to cater to them, and how like lazy, I saw that the other day, modern readers are. But we're just in a different time. Our brains are programmed in a different way. We're a different group of people. We are much more all-encompassing readers than we used to be, 100 years ago. And yes, short chapters also, I do the same thing. If I know the chapters are short, then I will absolutely be like, I could just read one more. I'm going to get this done in like 5 minutes. I'm good. And that's, oh my God, it's so clever. Oh, I love psychology, and I love when I can apply it to books, because that is the most clever flipping thing. And of course, like, once you get that reader going, if the reader finishes your story today, then tomorrow they buy another one of your stories. And the long chapters, I feel like if you have a great big epic book, you have to have long chapters, because for a few reasons. Like, first of all, normally if you've got a 600-page book, you can tell the same story in a 200-page book as in a 600-page book, right? It's just how much detail you give to it. The more detail you give, the slower the pacing, which isn't a bad thing. Necessarily, you have people who want that great big world. It's why the epic books tend to be in the fantasy categories, because it is all that world building and people really get into that. But because of it, there's, your chapters should be based on your plot, not on any like world building or anything like that. So if your plot is getting stretched out, then your chapters are also getting stretched out. Also, I don't want a book that has 300 chapters in it because it's 1,000 pages long and they still wanted that chapter every 3 pages. That's insane. Yeah, that is my thoughts on that. So let's go ahead and do our next sprint. We'll have 2 more sprints total. So we'll have this sprint and then we'll have 1 more sprint after that. But let's go for 20 minutes. I will see you guys at 40 past. All right, time up on that sprint. Let me know how you did. I finished a chapter, and I'm in the middle of the next scene. I'm at page 67. I feel like last time I gave you all my page count, I was at 62. So I am progressing. This is 96 pages total. I would like to have it done today, but also my day's pretty messed up. So it'll probably be tomorrow. That's okay. And then hopefully tomorrow I will finish it. Ooh, excuse me. Tomorrow I'll hopefully also get the book cover done for this. I did finally get the image. I don't know. I was struggling with the cover for months. Came up with like 10 different designs for it. None of them I was really happy with. And then I changed the title of the book, which was independent of me not being able to find images for it. But I guess it was a good thing that I couldn't find images, because I would have had to have completely redone it if I had changed the title. But I finally have all of the images together, and I just have to do the damn thing and hope that I can get my lighting right on it, because the two of the three images that I'm using, one of them, it doesn't matter because it's a small detail in it, but the other two are both prominent on the cover, and what the hell was I going to say? They were both prominent on the cover, and the lighting is definitely, I don't know, the lighting is different, but I don't know if it's actually going to make that much of a difference. One of the reasons that the lighting is so different is that one picture is of fabric and the other picture is of metal. Like, obviously not like a length of fabric and a sheet of metal, but the objects, one of them was fabric and the other is metal. So I don't know how much it's actually going to make a difference. Just because metal shows off the lighting so much more intensely than the fabric does. And the fabric is a dark object. It's a black hat. So it might not, and like a wool, not like a silk black hat. So it might not actually make a difference at the end. We'll see. And let's see. Shadow wrote 24 words prior to the sprint and 19 words this sprint. That is progress. Elizabeth dealt with weird formatting issues on D2D with chapter detection, knocking head against desk. For my stuff that is wide, I use smash words, not D2D. I understand why people love D2D so much more. D2D is draft to digital, in case anybody is curious what we're talking about. And both of these are, both D2D and smash words are wide distributors. They basically, if you want your book to be wide as opposed to Amazon exclusive, I guess you could be exclusive to other things, but I've never heard of anybody being exclusive to anything but Amazon. Although I think Kobo's got something now. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they're wide distributors. So they basically, you give them your book, not give them, but you provide them with your book, and they distribute it to a whole bunch of book retailers. Pretty much everything except Google Play. Google Play you have to do independently, at least with smash words. I'm assuming it's the same for D2D. I'm not sure. Everybody that I know who uses D2D loves it more than smash words, but because of what I write, things get weird for me on D2D. Because of the way that their categories are set up, I end up with a bunch of books that, or I end up not being able to distribute to a bunch of retailers that I should be able to, because my books get flagged as erotica. They are not. They are erotic romance. I know that if you don't if you don't know the romance market that well, that distinction doesn't sound important, but it is. Most retailers will carry erotic romance. Many of them will not carry erotica. And there's no way to flag things as erotic romance on D2D. So it's either romance or erotic. And obviously you need to put erotic on your romance if it is an erotic romance. Anyway, so like dragging out a great big story that I didn't need to. But the reason that I mention any of this is that the one nice thing with Smashwords is, like, a lot of people hate this, but the way that you format it, your books, you are basically giving them a Word document that they turn into all the other document formats. The EPUB and Mobi, and I'm blanking on the other one. Oh, PDF. But you have to have it formatted perfectly for them, which is a nightmare for a lot of people, but also it prevents this issue that Elizabeth is having with weird formatting issues on D2D with chapter detection. You never have that happen with Smashwords, as long as you have done it right. And they have a beautiful style guide teaching you how to do it, that even if you have no interest in being on Smashwords, if you want to learn how to truly set up your book format properly, the Smashwords style guide will get you there. Yeah, so let's see. Funky Sci filled in previous chapters with some details that he thought of. Very good thing to do. I nearly deleted a nice big chunk of foreshadowing. Sorry. I thought it was like a toss away sentence, and then I realized, I read it again, and it was like, oh no, shit, I absolutely need this here, because otherwise nobody will know that character is here and he needs to be in this scene. So yes, getting those details right to make sure that things work out later are super important. And yes, absolutely, Smashwords is clunky. I won't deny that, and it's an awful lot of work to get yourself on Smashwords, again, because of this formatting thing, and it's stressful. I've never had a book declined for poor formatting, but they check it, and it takes time. So yeah, always a little bit of stress when I upload there. Like, oh my God, I just spent like 3 hours formatting this, and watch them be like, now you messed it up. And if you mess it up, then you become ineligible for a whole bunch of things. So yeah. So Funky Sai says, I seem to always think of things when I'm away from the book and have to send myself notes by email. Back when I worked and was not just writing full time, it was actually like something that I kind of miss about it was I always had a pocket as a cake decorator. So we have pockets on our shirts because we needed to have pens to take orders and stuff like that. But I always had a little notebook in my pocket that every time I thought of anything, I would write it in the notebook. And like with being a cake decorator, you have a lot of time to just think while you're working. So I came up with like all my stories, figured out all of my plot holes, but I had to have that little notebook because otherwise I would forget it by the time I went home. And then like every couple of days when I was home, I would just like go through the notebook and like put the notes into my document, however they needed to be done, and like scratch them off and keep going. And those little notebooks had like 4 different stories every single time. Like, you know, oh, also in that story, I need to do that. And in this story, I need to do this. But it was so nice for like really elegantly working out plot issues that I just don't have that time anymore because I'm not forced to do it anymore. I'm not forced to just stand there and think while slapping icing on a cake. Okay. Let's go ahead and do our last sprint. It is that time. It is 11:50 here in Atlanta, and it's almost lunchtime for me. So we are going to write for 20 more minutes, and then we will move on with our days. If you are moving on now, I will be back this same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. Hope to see you then, but also I hope to say goodbye to you at the end of the show. So stick around, do the sprint. Yeah, 20 minutes on the clock. Okay, we're back, and that is time. That is the end of the show. Let me know how much work you ended up getting done. I got that thing published, and I edited. I'm gonna say it was 6 pages, which is not a lot, but that's okay. I've got the rest of the day to get more work done. If I can get 20 more pages done, I'll feel really good about the day. I got almost no work done in that last sprint because I got thrown into a conversation about Dr. Seuss. Starting with my roommate, one of his friends, him taking a screenshot of one of his Facebook friends. I have no idea who this dude is, but blaming Obama for 6 Dr. Seuss books being taken out of print. I'm sorry, not Obama, Biden. That was like the conversation immediately went to, well, remember when we blamed Obama for everything? So now we're just going to blame Biden for everything. But yeah, it was definitely a thanks, Biden. I don't know if Biden personally called the family members of Dr. Seuss to tell them to take the books out of print. I doubt that, though. Anyways, it's just a weird, it's one of those things where being in the industry somewhat, I guess, probably changes perspectives, but like books get taken out of print all the time. And like 4 of the 6 books nobody has ever even heard of. Like, I know that all of his stuff is pretty much still in print because people still want the like gigantic anthologies. He's one of those authors that, like, even though most people have never heard of these, there are those collectors who still want like every single one of his books. They're still available, just not in print. Anyways, that is everything for today. Elizabeth finished all of her tedious stuff. I'm glad you got it all done. I'm glad that my sprints encouraged you to get it all done. Shadow got 30 more words in that. I feel like we're in a good place to end. And hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. If not, we'll be doing all this all over again Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Have a great day, guys.